did receive an email from the Department of Environment telling us that that basically because our streets were too icy, they would not pick up our trash that week. What someone did not tell us is that they were going to wait the next week, which our day is Wednesday, for them to pick up the trash. Reached out to the administration, DPWT, many times starting Tuesday and Wednesday, noting all the streets that there was no snow removal. And I put out a statement to make it clear that we were not pleased with the snow removal, especially our community was hit pretty hard. So thank you. I want to thank my colleagues for the questions because a lot of it was addressed, some of the concerns that I initially had. I do want to thank Oluche for always responding. I did send you multiple emails when I was we were pretty panicked because my direct community, my neighbors were complaining, and I do appreciate that. You were one of the only ones that actually responded, so thank you. This was a huge communication problem, and one of the big issues, not trying to compare us to other jurisdictions, is that our communication did not match what was executed. So I just want to start with some of the first question I was going to ask. We did see snow like this in, I believe, 2011, 2010, and 1996. Was there anybody that was consulted within the agency that was around at that time during those snowstorms prior to the snowstorm? Because we did have at least a week warning that the snowstorm was coming. Did we consult with anybody around that was around during that time period?
Staff who are heavy in the operations side have been with the agency for a long time, and I guess you're referring to the moniker they've given it of Snowmageddon or something like that.
Right. Because we had much worse snow than we had here, and I lived in a county for the one that we had at least in 2010. I don't know if it's 2010 or 2011, but I don't remember. I remember they were able to clear, even though people complained then. There was less ice on the ground then than there was this year, and we had less snow. We had less snow with that one. So I just want to know, are we using the resources we have within the agency to consult them to say to lay out a plan?
And we have extensive pre-planning and, for storms as we figure out how we're going to sort of tackle this storm. I think there might be a bit of a difference because I also experienced, not in Prince George's County with the Snowmageddon storm, is that the amount of snow that fell prevented people from driving. Close to 3 feet of snow, you could not travel. So it's a bit different. Removing the snow, is different from sort of dealing with ice. Ice is the snow fighter's worst nightmare in a sense. The fact that we took too long to go into the residential areas and we had enough snow that people could drive in it, that they had to go about their business. They went about their business, helped to pack it down and sort of create the sort of icing condition that really turned out to be a real challenge for us in the residential.
That was not the experience. A lot of my communities cannot get out of their homes because of the ice, meaning that they could not even drive out. I know there was a question about parked cars, but outside of the parked cars, there were full ice rinks in the middle of the community. So we did, I know if you want to remember, I forwarded you a couple of messages where we had people who needed to get their medicine but couldn't leave their home. So I just do think that a lot of the communities that had the ice issue could not leave because they were scared of the sliding on the road. When did you plan to get to the residential roads? And the reason why I'm asking that, because the part of the communication problem was that we were told after the last snow, 48 hours, and then file your 311 complaint. Now, we actually sent emails to our residents advising them such. But the problem was that after 48 hours, most of the residential roads still had not been done. So the question that I have is that if you're encouraging 311, to me, that's an assumption that your understanding is that most residential roads would be done within 48 hours, which would mean if you were filing 311, you would have been a road miss. I would most likely assume that you would not encourage us to have residents file 311 if you knew most of the residential streets would not be touched within 48 hours.
What's challenging with this storm is the amount of time it took for the storm to leave Prince George's County. It snowed for 11 hours or something like that, if I recall. You had 2 bands of snow. During that period of snow, our assets are on the primaries and secondaries. We could not take them off those. We had to get those done. So it's taking the major improvement that I'm suggesting that the department needs to make is we have to take into account that we can't control the type of storm that will come over us. They all won't be fast moving. Some will sit on you they could sit on you for a day, two, and snow. So we have to have the capacity to concurrently tackle both sets of roads. We must do primaries and secondaries for the reasons I mentioned. More than 3.8 billion vehicle trips go through Prince George's County every year. It's essential that those roads are dealt with, primaries and secondaries. However, it is also important that people are able to get medicine, or that you're able to sort of get about in the residential areas. The way that we do that is to have an ability to, concurrent with the primaries being dealt with, plow the secondary roads, the residential roads. And that's an equipment supplement that is needed to allow us to be able to do that. If we're able to do that, we would then have the capacity as an agency to do that. And this sort of problem would not materialize, again, for most reasonable storms.
Noting all of this, but the bigger issue is putting out the communication that was put out. That's what also led to the panic in our community, because 48 hours people started to do 311 requests, and we were getting phone calls because people saying, what's going on? It's been 48 hours. And when we reached out to you all, it seemed like there wasn't quick responses. Maybe you were overwhelmed, but I know from my office, each person was told to make sure people understand to do 311 within 48 hours. And I do want to mention another part. Was there any agency meetings with all agency heads, almost like a plan on deck of like everybody sitting in the room talking to each other? This is when I'm talking about trash removal, 311, because there were a couple things I noticed. I know this is not about 311, but the 311 was one of the tools that you all sent out using for communication from residents. When people put 311 requests, oftentimes either they were dismissive, which the lady said, but we got notices of that, or it told them that they will get a response. I think there was one that was forwarded to it that they were going to get a response by January 14th. So should be, if you are going to tell people to call 311, there should be a response. There should be an immediate response, that there will be response within 24 hours, because basically someone was saying, hey, when is my street going to be removed, thing? And then they were saying, multiple people came back and said that this will be resolved by January 13th or 14th. So that would be next week. So then it upset people even more. So they would call the office. They were even more mad, because one lady who is an advocate in the community and very active was like, so should I have to wait till next week? And she lives with seniors, and all in there was ice. They're basically telling you they have to wait till January 14th for it to be resolved. So there should have been a 311 prompt. I mean, this is a time of AI that you all could put something there that would say this will be resolved within 24 hours. So then that would be done. Second part is I'm going to bring in the DOE trash removal. All up 202, the communities in my district did not have trash removed, because there was we didn't know why. When I sent an email to the director of Department of Environment, she responded back that the trucks had let them know that they could not go down the roads because they were so icy, so they were going to come next week. But here's the problem with the communication. You all sent a graphic that said that your snow would be this day due to the snowstorm, so if it was Wednesday, it would be Friday. So we sent that out to our residents. So our residents are saying, okay, my actual trash day, because mine is Wednesday, it wasn't going to be done Wednesday according to your graph. It will be done on Friday. But then on Friday came, and then there was no trash removed, and then comes to find out that someone in the agency was already aware that trucks would not go down roads that were icy, which makes sense. So was there a discussion between interagency about the process? Was there the plan of having people sitting there answering phone calls? I know there was 12-hour shifts, but there was a 12-hour shift just snow removal and not necessarily a communication between agencies?
So there were several meetings that we had. The Homeland Security Director Gill did convene a meeting pre-storm, where all the agencies and partners were involved in the meeting to sort of talk about the characteristic of the storm that was approaching, and then to get brief outs from different departments on state of readiness and things of that nature. We also subsequently had a meeting with both DOE and DPWT with acting CX Jackson, and Acting CEO Stanton to talk about the coordination between the agencies in terms of messaging. And one of the deficiencies we found is that DOE is not in our snow center as such. And that's something that needed to be improved. So while we do sort of during the snow event, we do have regular briefouts on the state of roads, the state of completion, equipment failures, or other issues that we might be facing. We were not communicating that to the Department of the Environment, and that's an area that we need to improve, and we have improved. We have them now on the calls now. We did it for this last storm that we had this weekend.
Thank you. My last question would be around what roads were you all required to do versus like HOAs and things like that? Because I know you all were doing residential roads, but there were certain roads where I'm not sure whether the HOA was supposed to do it or not. We did we got a few complaints. I mean, Cameron Grove, Ms. Philippa texted a couple of us this morning that some of the HOAs said that they had to basically do the streets on their own. Because they were waiting for snow removal to come and it didn't. So I wanted to know what is the limit? Where was it where the DPWT covered the road? Where was it? Was there any responsibility for HOAs for some of the community to do their roads?